We truly believe that what is happening in marriages right now is bigger than any one couple. And if you've ever felt that pull to step in and help, we want to invite you into something new. The Six Pillars of Intimacy certified coaching program is now open, and it's designed to equip you with skills, tools, and a clear framework to guide couples toward their own extraordinary marriage. Learn more today at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/cert. That's oneextraordinarymarriage.com/CERT.
From Estero, Florida, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. Creators of the Six Pillars of Intimacy, I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the HUG hotline at 858-876-5663 or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're talking about why timing matters in your sex life and how understanding your body can change the way you approach intimacy, closeness, and connection in your marriage.
And there's a quote from Candace Pert that says, "The body is not separate from the mind. They are one and the same." And as we're talking about timing and we're talking about intimacy, you're going to see how this is all integrated. But first, we start every episode with a hug. And for those of you that are brand new to listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, first we want to say thank you for joining us and welcome. We're super glad that you're here. A hug, for those of you that don't know, is an opportunity for us to celebrate you, to celebrate transformation, to celebrate the effort that you're putting into your marriage. And this hug comes from a 5-star review that we received on Amazon for the book, The Six Pillars of Intimacy. And this reviewer said, "I have been intentional about many things in my life, job, business, health, etc. Until reading this book, I did not put that level of intent behind my marriage. That changes now."
Amen. I like that. Short, simple, but transformative.
Absolutely.
Go get the book.
And if you've read the book, we would love for you to leave your review you can go to sixpillarsofintimacy.com. Leave the review, because these are the kinds of things that help others. It's not just what they hear on the podcast, but it's also what they read on Amazon, on iTunes, that let them know this is a trusted resource and a place that they can experience transformation just like you.
There are many people who will pick up the Six Pillars of Intimacy without ever hearing this podcast.
Yep.
And so and we say this often, we can't do this alone. With your help, we can impact more marriages. And so the 2 minutes you may take to go leave that review on Amazon could change somebody's life and marriage. So
100%.
Go do it.
100%. So as Tony said at the top of the episode, we're talking about why timing matters in your sex life. And the catalyst for this episode was really, as we've been just spending a lot of time in different airports and traveling and reading all different kinds of things over the first part of this year, came across this article that I can't remember if the headline was "Morning is the best time for sexual intimacy" or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But it caught my attention.
I will say this.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to just say, morning for us men is a good time. I can tell, even most recently, and even in the past, just saying, erection is way stiffer. Like, I as a man, feel that tension of oh man, this is a great erection.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because we're going to be talking about it in today's episode.
I know we are.
I'm glad that you feel better now that you got it out of your system?
I do.
Okay. So I read this article and I share it with Tony. And then as I'm reading it though, I'm kind of confronted with this tension about, sort of the accepted norm of being sexually intimate at night, right? I hear it from my coaching couples all the time. We tend to, we've definitely had seasons in our marriage where it's only been evening, nighttime, for those of you that have kids, it's after the kids are in bed. It's after the chores are done. It's after date night or after the movie. It's dark outside, right? And that's usually coupled with statements around the fact that, well, we're too tired to really engage one another, or I don't feel like my spouse desires me, or, this is the only time that we think about having sex, right? So you get into this place of, as Tony so eloquently said, erections for a man are super strong, or can be, first thing in the morning. And yet culturally, there's this norm of having sex at night. And so that's what's going through my head as I'm reading this article, the kind of these two warring factions. And
also, too, I would have to say this. Morning time, people are getting up different times, getting to work. I mean, obviously there are many different factors going on. I mean, there was a season in our marriage when I was so deep into my road cycling. I was up at 3:30, 4 a.m. on my bike, working out, doing all this stuff. And that was 6 days a week, pretty much.
Yeah, trust me. We're not waking Lisa up at 3:30 in the morning.
And so that morning time can feel like I have to go do something else.
Right.
Or I want to go do something else.
100%. And yet the gist of this article was really focusing on the circadian rhythm that we are all governed by, that is regulated by the brain, that influences hormone release, hormones and sex, alertness, energy levels, our sleep-wake cycles, and so we start talking about this, and the article went into more depth, and I've been seeing lots of articles about this. And Tony, would you like to talk about testosterone in men?
What about it?
Well, it's essentially what you just said, that it often peaks.
I'm like, what are we talking? I know my testosterone number,
right?
But that's because I'm on HRT.
But more the fact that for the vast majority of men,
it peaks in the morning. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes.
Right. And cortisol is also higher in the morning, and that decreases as the day progresses. And women's sexual desire isn't necessarily linked to just a singular hormone spike, but it has this, combination of factors of emotional connection and context and stress levels, and, getting into the relationship dynamics and all these things that happen and are shifting over the course of a day.
Okay, but very interestingly enough, so you have it here, the peak for men, testosterone, is often between 6 and 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Then we go to the female side of this, and it's less tightly linked to a single hormone spike. So what I'm understanding here is that you as a woman are not having that same circadian rhythm that's happening as us men are.
100%.
So in the morning, we're ready to go. You're more like, I need emotional connection. When most of the time we're trying to wake up. Context, I'm sure it's more like, what's the context of us engaging in sexual intimacy? I would hope stress levels are lower in the morning, but maybe not. I mean, I know even for myself, and I'm sure you've woken up in early mornings and your stress level begins to, your head starts going overwhere. And then obviously the relational dynamic. I just find it's very... For the female side, and I'm just going to say this, and don't get all freaked out on me.
You're going to say it's complicated?
It's more touchy-feely.
Yes.
It's more of a, okay, I'm trying to engage and understand and try to figure out these four things, where us as men, it's more like, I have an erection, I'm ready to go, let's do this thing.
And therein lies the tension.
The nuance and the tension that happens between husband and wife.
Physiology versus emotionality.
Yes.
Right? And that's a big part of this. Right? So we can get into these places where, as we're talking about where this often peaks. And again, we're not making blanket statements. Please, if you're a guy that does not, have that strong sexual desire in the morning, you're not broken. It's not a problem. This is based on research and science and where lots of men do fall, but not 100% of men.
And on the other side of that, you may be a woman who you do have that desire early in the morning. This is, again, research overall. We've been doing this long enough that there's probably just as many men who get an erection in the morning who don't. And then on the other side of it, just as many women and wives who are highly sexual in the morning who are not. Please do not take this as like, I'm broken. Nope. This is research that is done over thousands and thousands of people.
And there are always exceptions. Please hear me. There are always exceptions.
This is true.
But talking about these circadian rhythms can get into this place of going, is there more to the physiology than just the emotional statements that we might make about, well, my spouse only wants to have sex when it's convenient for them, or I'm always the one initiating, or, my spouse isn't attracted to me, but getting into this place of, hey, what is what's going on kind of like underneath the skin,
Mm.
right? What's going on internally? Because it's not just, well, she needs more connection and this type of thing, but it's also looking at what happens over the course of a day in people's lives and getting to this place where, if you just think about your own self over the course of a day and where your brain is at the end of the day and the state of fatigue because of all the decisions and
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
You get to a place where decision fatigue is increasing over the course of the day. Your dopamine regulation, think about it. You are more often to kind of be short fused and be more, stressed at the end of the day than you are at the beginning of the day, right? So all of that contributes to the fact that there is, maybe a reduced interest in having sex.
There are times, even for myself, where it's like, oh, it'd be so awesome. And then as soon as I hit the bed, I go through my routine and I'm like,
good night.
Mom, I'm tired. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because it's sort of like, oh, it'd be, but yeah, like there are just definitely days and sometimes weeks and seasons where it's like the decision fatigue, once you hit your head on the pillow, it's like, I don't want to make another decision. And as much as I want to be sexually intimate and I want to have sex with you, I'm like, go read your book because I know you're going to read your book and call it good.
Yeah. And that's what's happening for a lot of couples where you get to this place, at the end of the day, all of these things, contribute to a reduced interest in initiating or engaging in sex. And yet there's still this default that sexual intimacy is what we should be doing. So you have lower energy, you are less responsive to your spouse, and there is a greater likelihood of avoiding sex. Like you were just talking about, like we both read our books and we do our kiss goodnight because we always kiss goodnight, and thumbs up, call it a day. And so you can get into this place where you are being sexually intimate less frequently, or you have greater perception of rejection because these patterns aren't being addressed, discussed. There isn't any emotional intimacy around the sexual intimacy. So we're just kind of falling into like, well, we're not gonna talk about it. We're just gonna kind of let it fade, let it be, not have a discussion, not say, hey, what's going on with you? What's going on with me? In a way that doesn't create, or in a way that doesn't invite collaboration, and maybe sometimes even sparks a little defensiveness instead of saying, hey, like we've got this pattern going on, how are we going to address it? And so it's not necessarily, and I think this is a really big thing for the one family, maybe what's going on in your bedroom is less about my spouse is rejecting me and all of this, and more about, hey, we need to explore what's happening to us physiologically. We need to better understand what our rhythms are. We need to have conversations around our sexual intimacy, around our cycles, around what happens over, the 12, 14, 16 hours that we're awake, instead of just making assumptions about what our spouse is thinking or doing. And those are conversations that truthfully need to happen. Well, let's talk about those conversations after this break.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
There's something about shifting into summer. We might be on a walk, sitting by the water, or even traveling together. And I find myself looking around thinking, this matters. The life we've built, the memories we're making, our family, these are the most important things. And then the thought comes, have we protected this well? Most folks don't think about life insurance until you have to, and that's usually not the moment you want to figure it out. That's why I love Policy Genius. They make it simple. You can compare quotes from top insurers side by side, see your options clearly, and get guidance from a licensed team who actually puts your needs first. No guesswork, no pressure, just clarity. It honestly feels like a summer win instead of a chore. And with thousands of 5-star reviews, you know you're not figuring this out alone. With Policy Genius, you can see if you can find 20-year life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. Head to policygenius.com to compare life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. We're back, and this whole episode has been about the importance of timing, but more specifically about understanding the circadian rhythms and what your circadian rhythms look like. Like, not everybody follows the exact same. This is what happens every 24 hours. We are all, the Bible tells us we're all fearfully and wonderfully made. We are all individuals. But it is important to have conversations around what your personal patterns are. Right? When I shared this conversation or this article with Tony, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I mean, he told you guys, right?" Like I barely got out the beginning of the episode, and he's like, "I got to talk about morning time." Right? You heard it.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I experience it almost every morning. I think there's this moment where I'm like, oh yeah, that and it's a good happy moment, like honestly, and I'm like, oh, and then my alarm goes off, and I'm like, oh, I got to get up and go work out.
See, even that right there, you guys, like, I didn't know this was an almost everyday thing.
Yeah, I think that's why we're looking at moving into a queen size bed, going from a king to a queen. Maybe we're closer together, and instead of being so separated and so far apart from one another. It's something that you and I have talked about and looked at and going, hey, you know what? Maybe it might be wise for us to, change some things around.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about this circadian rhythm, I think it's one of these things as we start to talk about, hey, what could this look like for you in your marriage and for you to strengthen your sexual intimacy pillar?
Yeah.
It's one of those things, again, it's a tool. This isn't like some mumbo jumbo. This has been studied.
Right. Circadian rhythms are real things.
And so how does that play a factor in our lives, where we are? Because even before we even did this episode, Elisa mentioned it to me, and I'm like, that's really interesting because, I mean, I've heard of them, but I don't think about them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about them in my own life on an everyday basis. Some of you may. But it's just identifying and going, okay, what are those patterns that do happen? What is going on a day-to-day 24-hour period? How is that mapped out? And how do I take that information for my own self over a 30-day period maybe?
Right.
And how does that impact my sexual intimacy, my emotional intimacy, my spiritual intimacy?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm assuming it's not just our sex lives that are impacted by this, but there are many of our pillars of intimacy that we could probably look at and go, that's really interesting how the 24-hour clock and where I'm at, high, low, energy, libido, desire, all of it.
Right. Because if you start just being self-reflective and looking at your own patterns, right? When do you feel most alert, most relaxed, least mentally preoccupied? Like, you could start looking through those things and really go, okay, when am I most open to intimacy? And as Tony just said, I mean, this episode's been wrapped around sexual intimacy, but you may actually pull that question out and go, when do I feel most open to recreational intimacy? Mm-hmm. When is the best time for us to have, conversations and foster our emotional intimacy? Like, you could take that one question along with the ones before it. When do I feel most alert, most relaxed, and, least mentally preoccupied, and layer that with the 6 pillars and go, oh, wait, if we start understanding our circadian rhythms for each one of the pillars, what does that do to how we engage in the 6 pillars of intimacy?
Let's stick with the sexual intimacy pillar for now, because I think there's going to be, again, we already said it. Me, personally, erection, first thing in the morning. There's a little more physiology going on for you?
Well, it's more that
the context, the emotional
it's a little bit more layered.
connection. So what does that look like?
Although, funny story. So I have to tell the story. This is so funny.
Oh yeah.
So the other morning, and Tony has said, "Hey, I want you to let me know, like, if you're thinking about arousal, like, I want to know." And so the other morning,
let me just put this blanket. There are times when Elisa is aroused, like truthfully is aroused. So I just tell her, hey, when you are, open your mouth and say, Tony, and it doesn't mean we're going to have sex, but
Right.
just tell me you're aroused. Because I think that honestly just helps her, Elisa, to go, oh, wow, like my body
Like I'm
does
thinking about it.
gets aroused. I do get aroused. Like, again, us as men, we have an indicator
Right.
that gets erect. We can, for my wife and maybe for some of the other women, just, I don't know, like this, I'm not a woman, so I don't know, but the arousal isn't, it's not an exterior,
Right. Like I don't look down at anything and go, oh,
I'm
yep,
aroused.
we're aroused.
But just tell me when you are, because we don't even have to have sex, but I
But I want to know.
I want to know.
Right. So the other morning I wake up to go to the bathroom and I'm, coming out of the bathroom, I'm like, wait a minute. I think like we should have sex now. So I like come back to bed and I'm like crawling back into bed and I go to throw my arm over Tony to just be like, hey. And I realize he's not in bed. He had already, like I had slept through him getting up, getting ready to go do his workout, all of the things. I was like, oh, I was totally going to initiate. And he's not here. Like
I did get an audio text
I
while
did.
I was at the gym, and it made me chuckle.
I was like, I was all ready. I came back to bed and you weren't there. So just funny things about alertness and, real life stories about how sometimes you're alert and it doesn't work. The other thing too is, and this is going to be a challenge for some of you. What happens if you don't default to nighttime?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you start going, what else? When else? What are the other windows that we can engage in? Because nighttime may not be the best time for the two of you. And that may be something that you have to think about in terms of like, well, that's going to be a weekend thing just because of what our lives look like, during the work week and that type of stuff. But could morning be an option for the two of you? You got to talk about your sleep cycles. I'm not messing with that. And some of you know not to wake up your spouse too early in the morning. Like,
Yeah, there are many nuances. We have talked to many of you, second shifts, third shifts, number of children, waking up early to get to work, or again, even working out or things of that nature to fit that in. There are many nuances, and in different seasons of our marriage.
absolutely.
And the only way that we break out of these things is by engaging one another and not falling for what society, what the movies, what the books and everything tells us to do. Is like, it's always dark. It's always under candlelight. It's
Always at night. It's always
that doesn't have to be the story. We can change that up if we so want to. It's just we have to engage one another and we have to be willing to.
Mm-hmm.
And you better believe it. Yes, there are times when you have to shift from work mode to I am going to be a husband or a wife and I'm going to get into sexy mode middle of the day.
And then I'm going to switch back.
And then I'm going to switch back. And then I'm going to do parent mode. This is part of having an extraordinary marriage, is being able to shift between, I believe, where we are strengthening our pillars of intimacy and then being able to step back out of it and get back into where we are. Elisa and I, even though we work together, we have our own office spaces, we do our own things, we're running into this, but we may have sex midday and we have to shut off everything, turn everything off, and engage with one another, and then finish up and then turn back on. And sometimes that means like I'm going right into a meeting. Elisa's going into a coaching client. We're doing stuff, but we got to get out of this nighttime default mode.
Well, and I think even just having this conversation, I mean, we talked about it in last week's episode too, where we were talking about what's the extra that levels up the ordinary.
Yep.
And I think having these conversations is the extra that levels up the default sex framing, right? It's the extra that says, you know what, how are we going to handle stress? How are we going to look at different times of the day? Because for a lot of women, by the time you get to the end of the day, she is like, my brain is fried. I'm ready to turn off, check out, like I want to close my eyes and that's it. And so how are the two of you even having conversations about stress load, and how do you work together? It's not somebody taking over all of the responsibilities, but it's what frees
Yes.
up that. I mean, it's like I remember when we did the sex challenge and you started doing the dishes, and that was just enough for me to go, that's a break in my stress load, so that I can connect. And then, finally, don't leave your sex life to chance. If there is one thing that we have talked about literally since episode 1, it's that having some kind of framework around your sexual intimacy, whether you call, you engage in the intimacy lifestyle, scheduling sex, whatever you want to call it, it's more about connection than it is about rigid scheduling. It's about saying, this is a priority. We want to be in alignment together, and we value this pillar of intimacy so that all of our pillars are strong, so that we can look at it and it's not just one pillar that's firing. It's actually all 6 pillars, but it's saying this is important and we're going to work on this together and as a team.
Yeah. You know what? When we look at this circadian rhythm or our circadian rhythms, it's something else to just think about. And as Elisa said, God made us wonderfully. Like, this isn't just by chance or happenstance. Like, we are each individually and wonderfully made. And so know that this is something you can look at that could help you and help both of you strengthen that sexual intimacy pillar. If you are at a place where you're like, gosh, we'd love to learn more, we want to step in more to our sexual intimacy, go check out our Foreplay to Passion program. Go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/passion and transform those ordinary intimate moments into extraordinary connection. Again, go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/passion. Check it out. It's something that many in the One family have picked up and have seen massive change. We have guides, we have videos. It's all there for you. But mainly this week, take a moment, talk about this. What does it look like if you get in tune with one another, with yourself, and how does it shift your sexual intimate times from the default night, evening, whenever we're doing it, to a time that's more receptive to the both of you? What would that look like? And I will tell you, Elisa and I will be doing the same thing, because it's time for a shift even for us, because it doesn't matter where you are. We're always looking to add that little extra to the ordinary so we can create our extraordinary marriage. You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. We'll catch you next week. Love you guys.